Hey, how's it going, YouTube? Name's Landry, and I'm going to be showing you some Flo Tek 180cc heads right here. This is basically right out of the box. Just opened them up, and I'm going to show you some issues with these heads that can be corrected that I think can gain you a fair amount of power. But if you look right here at the machining marks, you see right here, this is shrouding the valves. This is significant. All right, it's really shrouding the low lift on the valves. It's quite a bit, and it's like that on every single every single valve, including the exhaust. It's like that. Then, if you look down in here, let me get a little pointer here. It's not really a pointer, but if you look right here, you see this right here. That lip right there is significant. Look at that. And that's on the short side radius, and it's completely, flat, or there's a really significant edge right there, and that's on every cylinder. Then on the other side, right here, I'm gonna stick my finger in there and watch this right here. See how it catches? Right there it doesn't, but right there it catches. So that needs to be ground down, right? Because that's a flat spot. The short side radius needs to be cleaned up. And then on the exhaust, kind of got the same thing going on with the machining marks right there. Okay, those need to come off on the exhaust. And if you look in here, you see the short side radius. That's the most important part, right? But then on the intake, you kind of want a little bit of a venturi around, basically from here to around to this point. This is the short side radius here. Don't need a venturi there, but a little bit of a venturi here. And of course you can see that you're not going to get that on this side right here. So you're going to have to make that. But on this side, it's there, except for that lip I was telling you about. Okay, so that needs to be cleaned up. You really don't have to do anything inside here. I mean, you can if you want, but it's not necessary. This right here, you want to kind of massage that down a little bit, because when you get your overlap going, you want your flow to happen there. The exhaust ports, you want to polish those up a little bit. You don't need to hog those out or remove a whole lot of metal there. You just want to polish them up and get rid of those casting marks. You see all those casting marks in there? And then flip it over, and we'll come over here to the intake runners. And the intake runners are actually not terrible. I mean, they're really not terrible. You can take a little bit of metal off right here where the push rod goes through, although, you want to be careful how much metal you take off there. What I've discovered is I've got two sets of these heads now, and on both sets, the forward part, facing front of the motor, you need to grind down about 1/16 to 1/8 of an inch to match your intake manifold right here. Because if you just mount your intake manifold on these stock, you're going to have a lip, and your lip is literally going to be that wide right there. Just like that, and your air coming in is going to hit that on every single one of these cylinders. So you want to put take gasket on there and take a look at that. And then also, when you install, I'll turn this around. When you install your intake gaskets, you need to make sure that you got the right size gaskets. These are 180cc heads, and if you just go to Advanced Auto Parts or AutoZone or wherever you go, and I'm not affiliated with either one of those, and you buy a set of Felpro gaskets, what's going to end up happening is you're not going to notice this, but the top and the bottom of the gasket are going to shroud your ports a good amount, probably 1/8 of an inch. So you're really going to make these ports smaller here, which is going to create a shelf, and it's going to create all kinds of problems. So make sure you're getting the right size gasket. Felpro does make a set of gaskets that are larger, and so that's what you want to get. And so that's, that's pretty much my review on these heads. Just, clean them up, and I think you can make them work. You're going to get a, budget head, $800 basically. These are $611 shipped, bare like this. And then I'm going to clean them up, and then I'm going to take them to the machine shop and get them to deck the head. So, obviously if I do a little scratch here and there, not a big deal. I'm going to go ahead and get them to lap the valves, seals for me. And if I nick a valve seal, not a big deal, because I can just have it replaced if it's that bad, right? So again, not a big deal because I got these heads bare. And then I'm going to have them do a back cut on the new valve. So you want to do that because that's helpful. Do a back cut on the new valves, like $2 a valve, $2.50 a valve to back cut them. They're going to charge me $200 to, because I already got the quote, $200 to deck the head. And then, of course, if they got to replace any valve seals that I scar up. But the point of it is that when I get the heads back, they'll be right. And then I can put my valve, they'll already have the valves put on. We'll give them the valves, we'll give them the springs. They're going to put it together for me. And these are going to be some really decent heads to bolt on my car. So the stock heads, I put on a 302 with a Trick Flow Stage 1 cam, right? And 180cc, 58cc chambers. It looks just like this, bolted on. I bought them complete. Bolted them on my car, 302 through a C4 transmission, and it made 271 rear wheel horsepower. All right, and it made like 280 foot-pounds of torque. Well, I think the torque has a lot to do with the shrouding of these valves, because the low lift flow numbers are going to be significantly impacted by this. Okay, so we're going to fix that. The back cut's going to add a little bit, and then going in and cleaning up these areas right here is going to add a little bit. It's all going to add a little bit. But anyway, so stock Flo Tek 180cc Ford heads, 302, made 271 horsepower on a low lift 511 lift cam. So we're porting these. We're just doing basically a pocket port, cleaning up the valve, the shrouding of the valves. We're going to polish this down a little. We're not going to smooth this down. Okay, we don't need to do all that. We're just going to just polish it down just a little bit, get rid of some of the heavier casting marks out in the cylinder here, or the chamber here. And we're not going to do anything to the intakes other than remove this area right here and clean it up, and we're going to grind down, I mean, just a minuscule amount on the push rod area. The exhaust ports, I don't want to lay that down on that side. Hang on a second. The exhaust ports, we're going to polish those up a little bit. All right, we're not going to remove any any necessary metal. We're not going to make them bigger. We're not going to hog them out. We're going to clean up the casting marks. We're going to polish them up. We're going to clean up that, like I said, the short side radius and this stuff in here. We're going to bolt them on, and we're going to see what we got. So again, my name's Landry, and thanks for looking at the Flo Tek heads.